Howdy folks, it's Angel the Hunting Gear Guy. Have you ever heard of John F. Kennedy? This video is going to be about the Carcano. This one, Carcano? I'm going to say Carcano. Don't hold it against me. I'm also going to say Carbine because I'm in Canada and that's the way we pronounce it. You could just imagine I'm saying Carbine every time. This is a Carcano Moschetto? Carbine? Cavalry? It's a short rifle. It's a very short rifle. Short and handy. It's got a 17.7-inch barrel. Fires the 6.5 Carcano round, which you can see there are none in this gun, or none around me right now. Though I will show you some range footage shooting this rifle. And it's a pretty neat little rifle. So I've already shown you that the chamber and magazine is empty. Let's take a closer look at this thing. So just starting from the back, we've got a plain metal butt plate. And as you can see, the screws and whatnot are kind of sitting proud. It's a little bit rough, this one, as you can see. There is a little spot here where you'd put your cleaning rod because there's no room for it up front because of this bayonet. So they would have had like a two-piece cleaning rod in here. This one doesn't have it. A lot of them don't. Just because of the age and misuse and whatnot. We've got side sling attach points, which I really like. You can see that other sling attach point there. I really like those because when you carry a rifle like that, look at what you're carrying against. It's all flat. It's all flat. So if you carry this on a sling and it's on your back, it's comfortable. There's nothing poking into your back. There's nothing uncomfortable about it. It's a nice little small rifle too. So that's all really nice. Because these sling swivels or sling attach points are both on the left-hand side. The other way you can carry it is just across your chest like this. You've got a 2-point sling. You've got them attached and it'll just roughly carry like this. And you can leave enough slack in that you can easily pull it up and take aim at a game animal or whatever. So I really like that. There's a couple of things that'll really blow your mind about this rifle that I think you'll really enjoy. Now, one thing that's not very good is the safety. You see this big paddle over here, and the idea is that you push that guy in and you turn it, and then you decock the action, and that's how the safety's supposed to work. And usually it will, but sometimes when I go to put it off safe, it lets the sear go forward. Like I can push the sear forward, which if you did it slowly, maybe it would be okay, but I don't like that at all. It just doesn't feel safe. So don't use the safety. Don't use the safety. Which, I mean, if you're going to take this thing hunting, it wouldn't be the best because using the safety is usually something you do when you're hunting. Some people opt to just leave their bolt open and rack around in when it's time to shoot a deer. But that makes noise. Most people use a safety. Not a very safe safety, so I wouldn't recommend it. If you do go hunting with these things, potentially take another person so that you can both shoot at exactly the same time and then no one will know which shots were which and how many shots were fired. There'll be a big mystery for that. Now, a couple things I really enjoy about this rifle. One, the bolt is not that bad compared with a lot of the others. Like, keep in mind, these things were originally made in like the 1890s all the way through World War II. This one in particular is 1942, so it was made during the war. You can see it's kind of rough. It's got a kind of a rough finish on it. But it's still a lot faster than like a Mosin Nagant. It's still much better than that. So I don't mind the bolt. It's not as fast or nice as something like the Lee Enfield, like a 303 or something like that, but it's perfectly serviceable. It's nice and light and small. It's got a turned down bolt. It's actually pretty good for, again, for garbage, it's pretty good. Now, one of the interesting things about the Carcano is how it's loaded. You load in a end block full of rounds into the magazine well, and I'll just roll in a clip of me doing that right now. To put ammo inside the clip, you can't snap it from the top. It's got to go in. And if you notice these grooves on the side there, those will actually hold on to the rim here. So you can't just put them in through the middle. They won't go in. You need to go at the top and then slide them down. So I found that technique works fairly well to load up these end block clips. And if they aren't in, you'll know because they'll just come right out. So they do need to be snapped in there. That top one just kind of snaps in, and that's how you load a 6.5 Carcano or 7.35, same clips. And as you can see there, you can load a full clip, you can load a partial clip, and you can eject a clip by pressing down on the clip and then pushing on this button in the trigger housing here. So that will let the clip out and let you take a clip with ammo completely out of the gun. And when you're all out of ammo, when you rack the last round, the clip falls out the bottom, or at least it should. These clips are bendy and they're like, there's not really a lot of clearance in there, so they might not want to fall out, in which case you would just take your next one full and just jam it in there, and then that'll push the other one out. But this is probably one of the reasons why these weren't like fantastic in wartime, because it's just got an open slot on the bottom. Like if you were to ever like pop that on a berm or like a grassy knoll or something like that, you might get some dirt in there, and that might cause some failure. To disassemble your Carcano, first make sure that your chamber is empty and your magazine is empty as well. Next, pull your bolt back, press the trigger, and then remove the bolts. The trigger actually actuates a little, it might be hard to see, but a little part right in there, and that lets the bolt go. Next, we've got 2 action screws that we need to remove. Make sure that your flathead bit is going to get all the way into the bottom of the screw, because a poor fitting bit will definitely mess up the screw. And these are hard screws to find. I don't know if you know that, but they're not making these anymore. So just carefully pull those out without doing any damage to it. And we've got the long one that goes on the back, and we've got the short one that goes on the front. Once that is complete, you should be able to pull off this magazine well housing and clip attachment right there. Next, we're going to have to remove this screw up to the front. We need to get this cap off because it's holding these 2 things together on here. Once that screw is loose, you should be able to pull it off. Then this cap here should be able to come off the front. Just carefully move it forward. Then this front upper handguard here can come off. We'll just need to move the rear sight out of the way, and then it will come off. And there's one more thing holding this thing in there, and that's this bayonet. So we'll just need to get that out of the way, and then the action should be able to come off out of the stock. Now, there's not much to show about the stock. Something I found kind of interesting. See that kind of ring in there? And do you see that ring in there? And when you look on the bottom, you see it too. These things are like pillar bedded. They have little metal tubes in there that make these things pillar bedded, and that's kind of interesting to me. We've also got a little metal reinforced lug here that mates up with this lug right here, so that's also a very interesting, great way of connecting the stock to the barreled action. Now, not much going on here. I just want to show you something interesting, how they get like a 2-stage trigger pull out of this thing. If you look inside that little crack there, you see those teeth? That's how they're getting 2 stages out of this thing. So there's our first stage, hits the second tooth, and then there's our last stage. Kind of an interesting idea. I kind of like this trigger. It's not good. it's a really rough trigger, but I kind of like the design of it. I kind of like how many things it does. There's our sear at the back there, so you can see that there's the last bit of it. We've also got the that plunger on the side that kind of holds the bolt together. So a couple of things that are happening with this in a nice simple little assembly that are kind of interesting. So looking at this magazine assembly, we can see a couple of pins here. We can kind of see this is that action I was talking about that was holding on to those clips. So the clip goes in here and it kind of grabs at the back right there. And then when you want to release it, you press that in. So that's one reason why you'll have to push down just a little bit before you let that guy go, because you can see it's got a bit of a hook on it, so you can't just push this thing and get something out. Now to disassemble this, we're just going to turn it over, and we can see these little screws here, screw there, and those are used to pull these apart. Screw it until it doesn't want to unscrew anymore, and then use a pin punch to just lightly press from the other side, and it should just come out. if you've got it all the way undone. Now the bolt is super interesting. This one looks rough. This is a 1942 rifle. They were cranking these things out when, you know, the Allies were at the door and they needed rifles. Toot sweet. Quick. I don't know how to say toot sweet in Italian. Anyways, rapido maybe. There's our extractor that goes along there. You can see just a simple 2-head assembly here. Some of the way that this comes apart kind of make me think a little bit about the Mosin Nagant. Just nicer, just a lot nicer. On this tail piece here, we can see there's this little detent. We have to push that in. That actually holds on to this thing and keeps it from going side to side. Push that guy in, and we're able to unscrew this cap a little bit. Once the cap's off, we can start taking off more parts. So we can pull off this little guidey piece there. And then, this took me a minute to find it, but you see that little detent in there? I was like, how do I get it out? It won't come out. I'll just press this in here. It's like, oh, it's impossible. But actually, there's a super secret little pathway right there. So what we're going to do is push it in, take it down there, and then I think is it right? Oh, there it is. See? Super secret path. Boom, and we've got it out. And this is definitely, again, something you're going to want to clean. I'm going to roll in a picture showing what this looked like and how much I needed to clean it when I first got this thing. So again, you're going to want to clean that. You're going to want to get all the crud out of there. Pipe cleaners are your friend. They're really great for getting into areas like this and cleaning it up. So next we're going to have to put it back together. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that firing pin in there. Now, one thing you'll notice, this firing pin, here, let me just take the spring off so I can show you. This firing pin has a flat on it, and that flat corresponds with a flat that's in here. See that little, like, dent right there? That's where that flat's got to go. So that's kind of interesting, right? And the way to line it up is to use this little arrow here. It's kind of hard to see through the rust and the corrosion, but that arrow is going to line up with another piece here shortly. So all that being said, we're going to take that little detent there, and we're aiming for right there. Just going to get it all lined up here, push it in, and turn it, and we can see that guy right there. So now we can turn it in and lock it in place. Now we need to line up that little arrow with the piece that's on the firing pin, so we can just turn it, and there it is. There's the little arrow there, and there's the arrow there. So we've got them lined up, and because they're lined up, we should be able to get this guy on fairly easily. And because they're lined up, we should be able to get this guy on just like that. That piece is going to be facing away from the flat, and we can screw on the tail cap. And we want to go all the way in until we can't go anymore, and then back out to wherever the next step is so that it locks in place. Finally, the last thing we need to do before we put it back into the gun, we need this straight piece here to be on the top of the bolt. So what we're going to do is grab the back here, pull, and then turn it until it goes up on the top. It's actually going to fit on that notch right there. So pull and turn until it goes in just like that. And it's sitting at a 12 o'clock position on where the bolt's going to go. All right, let's get our rifle into the stock. And to do that, we're just going to move that front piece there. We're going to aim to get our trigger in, sitting it firmly in place. Then we can move this, and we can move this guy. Oh, almost forgot. We need that. Put that in place. You can choose to use the rear sight to hold that that piece of wood in place and just hold it firmly there. And then we can pop this guy on correct side. The smallest screw we've got is going through there. With it upside down, we can take the magazine well and plate, pop that on there. Short little action screw goes up front. Long one goes in the back. So I want to talk a little bit about the ammo that's used in this gun. This is a 6.5 Carcano. There's also a 7.35 Carcano. And one of the things that they did around the 1890s, and then countries just didn't care about standardization with other countries. So when they made a 6.5 Carcano, they used 0.268-inch diameter bullets. Now our modern bullets for 6.5 are 0.264, which is smaller by quite a bit, by 4 thou. And if you buy commercial ammo, it's probably using 264-inch bullets. which aren't going to give you very good accuracy in this thing. So that's issue number one. The bullets are kind of hard to find. A lot of the manufacturers just don't bother. They're just like, no, just deal with deal with a little bit of inaccuracy. It's a Carcano, who cares? If you want to get optimum accuracy out of these things, you'll need to reload. PRVI has some 139 grain bullets that are 268. I think they make some factory stuff that uses those same bullets as well. So those will give better accuracy out of this thing. Now, one thing that is to be said is that this rifle was made to fire a 162, 163, 160 grain bullet. It's huge. It's like a javelin coming out of that thing. Crazy weight on it. If they had gone with like a 139 grain bullet, this would have been an 1890s 6.5 Creedmoor. Practically. It's practically the right bullet, the right cartridge size, like everything would have been the same, and they would have had it in the 1890s. If only they had gone with a lighter bullet. But anyways, I actually really like the cartridge. The cartridge is super practical for a small rifle, or even for like a regular rifle back in the day. And aside from the bullet diameter thing, like super practical size and whatnot. If you're going to use this thing for hunting, again, it's a practical size in terms of a cartridge. It's a practical size if you wanted to go shoot matches with this thing. If you wanted to shoot like a milcert match or something like that, it would be a practical cartridge to use. The reloading thing, though, is a bit of a pain in the ass. And because they're made for those 160 grain, like super heavy bullets, and the sights on some of the older ones use these like roller coaster style sights, that's really made for sending a big, fat, heavy bullet really far, and it means that the sights, you're almost always going to be shooting really high. Some guys will put some JB Weld on the front sight. Some guys will use the tip of the sight, and they'll put it like right in the tippy bottom of the V notch on the rear sight, and that might get them in where they need to be. There's a couple of kind of weird options. The rear sight itself is pretty cool. So there's our battle sight, and you can see it's just like a fixed rear. And when they went to the more modern ones, they would have kept with that. But they've also got this other sight that you can flip over, and that's our adjustable sight. So now we have a different zero, and we could also move this up to these different ranges that I'd imagine no one was actually shooting at. I imagine they just never used these, and they just kept them always flipped over to the front. And then at some point someone said, why do we pay for these? Everyone just like flips it over to the front and uses the crappy like little fixed rear one. Why don't we just make that for everyone? So let's show that bayonet. So there's a button on this side here. You press the button in and you pull the bayonet down. That unlocks it. Then you throw it out front and you pull it back, and that locks it in place. It's not a particular, like, I don't know what it looks like on camera here. It's not very sturdy. It's not like a super sturdy kind of a mount. The bayonet itself is not very sturdy either. It's got a flat top on here and a rib on the bottom, so it'll like poke someone. It'll be good for that. You wouldn't want to like sword fight with anyone or like try to joust with your bayonet, because just not very good. But that's not really the point of this rifle either, right? Like, this is a lightweight rifle that would be good for cavalry troops, bicycle-mounted troops, or troops that just had to be mobile, because it's a nice, lightweight little rifle. This, like, I would much rather be running one of these things than one of the, like, super long, monstrously heavy and awkward rifles. Like, this is actually, like, really light and fun to shoot. So what makes the Carcano cool in Canada in 2021? The price. I mean, we've had other milsurps in the past, a lot of red rifles that have been really cheap, SKSs for $200 for decades, Mosin Nagants for $175, $200 for the longest time. We had K31s here for right around $300. We had SVT 40s for $350. Not anymore. All that stuff is a lot more expensive. The SKSs are $450. Mosin's $400 plus. You can still get Lee Enfields at $200 for a sporterized version. If you want the full wood one, they're going to be $650, $800 kind of a thing. They're getting up there quite expensive. You could always buy the wood, but by the time you get there, you're right around that $650, $700 mark anyways. Whereas for right around $300, you get something that is in its original military configuration and in condition that is rough, very like rough condition, but usable and fun and kind of cool looking, especially these little carbines. Super duper handy. Very, very handy. When I compare this, this is the shortest rifle I own right now. I stick this in the safe next to my my other centerfires, even next to my 22s, and it's very short and compact, lightweight. Really cool for those reasons. Really cool as a milsurp. So if you've been in the market for a milsurp and you're looking for something and you don't mind reloading, take a look at the Carcano. Thanks for watching. Where was that one?
That was, I think, high? No, it was right behind it.
Yeah, these the last 10 or 15 that usually work the best.
No, nothing's empty. Huh? Nothing's there. No shot.
Nope, to the right. Yeah.
This bag.
Definitely.